right now on Amplified.
Some of the best engineers in the world are from Ireland because Ireland is one of the best test beds for engineering projects. You know, I've been part of talks where the US is trying to learn from abroad, so I'm trying to bring all of those learnings from Ireland to the US.
Hi there, my name is Dusty Rhodes and welcome to Amplified, the Engineers Ireland podcast. Many talented engineers feel tied to Ireland, afraid that moving abroad could mean losing professional momentum. However, the reality is that an engineering degree acts as a borderless passport, allowing you to innovate on a global scale while maintaining deep roots in the Irish community. How? Well, in this special Global Engineers mini-series, we're going to be meeting several Irish engineers who've done just that and will share how they did it. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Joseph Mooney, a Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree at the forefront of US energy research, and Sinéad Conneely, a structural director and finalist for Chartered Engineer of the Year. Joseph and Sinéad, you're both very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Let's start off the chat today, guys, just kind of talking about this global passport kind of concept for engineers. What I'd like to know is, how did you choose to leave Ireland and how did you pick where to go? Maybe Joseph, you're in the States, so you kick off.
Yes. So I had a deep passion for research and I saw that there was potential in this technology called atmospheric water around across the globe. And I saw this amazing research, Professor Evelyn Wang in MIT. I'd love to learn from her. I'd love to learn from her team and see how that is something that could show commercial potential. I just wanted to kind of collaborate with home at the same time. How do I collaborate with home on a water scarcity problem which to be, not existent in Ireland? I decided to write a project with the EU Commission to kind of get a grant there with the intent of starting something that would make global impact, bring it back to people that really suffer from the problem. But I think there's always that lure of building it successfully with heavy backing. So that was kind of the lure of going to the US. Good engineers from MIT, so I could find, collaborators, which I did, having that good link back to Ireland, being based in cities that do have those Irish roots.
And Sinéad, how about yourself? You're in London. Why did you decide to up sticks out of Ireland and move across the border?
So we were kind of just saying earlier that I'm a little bit older than Joseph. So I graduated uni in Galway 2010. So 2 years after financial crash, no engineering jobs in Ireland. We had gone in as undergrads in the boom and been told we'd be the highest paid engineers ever to leave college. And and it was really competitive then to get into civil engineering. It was like a serious thing. And obviously we came out, some of the lads in my class signed on the dole straight away. And I went to London just to do a master's. I actually went and did a ski season first. I went and got a job in a restaurant in France. I was like, it's now or never. So it's actually quite a good time when there's nothing going on at home. So I went, worked as a waitress, snowboarded for a winter, went to London to do a master's. And I got into two colleges in London, either to do a master's in civil engineering or a master's in applied mathematics. So I was like, I'll see, maybe I could get a job in finance. Maybe that's something that, I could go in and reform finance after this big crash. I didn't really know anything about finance. And I did this master's in applied maths at Imperial College. And halfway through, I was like, finance is not for me. But I never thought I'd stay in London. I had this kind of you talk about global passport. I told my dad I would move country every year. For 10 or 15 years, I would just change job every year, travel the world. He was like, okay, sure. And I'm now in London 14 years.
Now, the story I hear a lot of people, and be warned if you're listening to this and you kind of think you're moving abroad, the story that I hear from a lot of people is, yeah, I moved there for 3 months or 6 months or something like that. And then I met somebody. And then that was 30 years ago or something like that. Is that what happened to you, Sinéad? Is it?
No.
All right. Okay.
I just love the city. The first job I got was for a big consultancy. I loved working with them. I think London is such an amazing place. My brother was visiting this weekend and we're just walking around East London. And he lives in France at the minute, but I just think London is amazing.
There you go.
I wouldn't live anywhere else in this country, but London, unbelievable.
You mentioned doing your master's there. Is that because you're kind of thinking your qualifications from Ireland wouldn't stand up in the UK?
We were told they wouldn't when we left. So I don't know, Joseph, did you get a master's when you finished studying?
No, I decided that I probably wouldn't get it. Just went straight into the PhD. So I was sick of studying, so I just wanted to do research.
Yeah, fair. Because we only had a bachelor and because we were all basically needing to go abroad, we were kind of told you're going to be competing with whatever, British students in the US, so you probably need masters.
So what was the reality then? Did your qualifications stand up or did you have to do the masters?
I would have needed a master's to get a job in London, yeah.
And what about Irish qualifications? I mean, are people familiar with them? Because one of the things they say is if you have an engineering degree, you can work anywhere in the world, but maybe not.
Oh, I think they do. I mean, they only tell you this when you're in secondary school in Ireland, but there's obviously like the whole global university ranking system. And, you know, Irish universities don't rank so highly on them, but I don't think it really matters. Like I worked with loads of European engineers, Greek, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and they're all amazing, you know, and their universities don't rank very highly. I went to Galway, I don't know where it is, but, you know, anyone that I know who didn't go to, say, a top 10 university, they're brilliant engineers.
Okay. So how about though, if you are traveling abroad then and all you're holding is an Irish engineering qualification, should you be worried or just go with it? What do you think?
No, I wouldn't be worried.
Joseph, what about yourself?
No, I wouldn't be worried because, like, you know, if you get in the interview, then it's all up to you, right? And I think with engineers with passports, one of the reasons that it's so beneficial is that, you know, people like us travel and the universities that we've been to. And, you know, depending on, we're just getting sites on these universities more and more. Like back, I suppose, when people were interviewing, they would have said, you know, I went to the University of Ireland and stuff, you know, Limerick or UCD or whatever. Now they're becoming more and more familiar because we have these amazing engineers traveling.
In what way would you big up the Irish qualifications then so that they look a little bit more advantageous or a little bit maybe sexier than they might be in reality?
Yeah, I do think the Irish practical with how they approach problems, you know, it's the fundamentals, but we can apply it, which is very valuable. Strengths to the engineers out of Ireland is that, like, we are engineers getting from A to B. It's just the quality of how we do it, but also the ease at which we do it. And I think that's super important, but enjoying the colleagues, but also like the ability to have those transparent conversations. And I think it's a very big thing about our Irish people traveling is that, like, they open up even more when they travel, you know? And I think that's super valuable. And
that's very interesting that you say that, because a lot of people, before they leave, one of the things that they're scared the most of is failing.
Mm-hmm.
Yet when you get there, something changes in your head where it doesn't happen. Can you remember that happening to you?
Well, the fear of failure was kind of left me very early on. Like, I was a swimmer and I failed every day. So when it was applied to engineering, I was okay with failure, that it was progress, right? You know, if I didn't do a correct tumble turn, I'd know how to learn how to do it, and then I'd make my time faster. So if I wired the circuit backwards, well, then now I knew how to wire the circuit better, or I knew how to go onto some sort of wire it for me. And, like, you know, if everything's dandy, you know, you have to fail, but it's just time. And like,
how about you, Sinead? Did you have any of that sense of fear of failure when you started, and obviously got over it? How?
I was really scared to even apply to the universities in London. And I was over in London with my dad and my brother. I think we were here for a wedding. And my dad wanted us to go in and see Imperial College and go in and see UCL where I was applying. And I didn't want to go in. I was like, no, it's fine, leave it. And it was just pure, like, you know, I'll never get in, which is, I mean, okay, valid, but I had really good grades and I was really good on paper. So it was, you know, like, it wasn't that founded. And then when I started my first job, because I had done, so say civil engineering in Galway finished 2010, ski season, master's in applied maths. I had 2 years out of engineering and then went into this big consultancy in central London. I didn't know anything. Like, I was terrified every day. I was like Googling, you know, this is a long time before ChatGPT. I'd be Googling, how do you design a steel beam? And then reading these like university course notes. Queen's University in Belfast had these amazing, they published all their tutorial notes. And I'd be like up in the office late reading all this stuff. And I was like, they're going to fire me. Once they find out I don't know anything, they will fire me. But all that matters, and, you know, now I employ people, all that matters when you're in, and this goes for whether you're working in Ireland or abroad, can you learn? Can you take criticism? Engineering is non-stop failure to make sure that the building that you design doesn't fail, right? Or whatever it is that you're designing. But engineering is non-stop, hopefully constructive criticism. But if you can't take it, I've had some people working like with us, I've had to sit them down and be like, if you can't get on this track of having it's a constant feedback loop, and see that it's not failure, it's progress and it's improvement, then it's really not the career for you, because it never stops, ever.
When you're away, I think there's also kind of a little bit of a change in the Irish people or other people that you would meet. And you might meet Irish people that in Ireland you wouldn't necessarily talk to. But when you were away, you're both smiling at this. When you're away, suddenly they become pals and you end up doing things for each other. Did you find that to be true?
Yeah, I would have. I meet with every Irish person I can. You know, there's a little bit of your cliques back home. We're so alike in that we took the risk to move abroad. We want to see how we can both kind of make the most of our time here. On is the way of who you know, and who are the cliques back home. It's together, and it gives you a sense of security when you're abroad. So I would have separated myself from people that I wanted to get to know more when I was abroad. And I moved to Boston, but then I moved to Atlanta, and within the first week, there was an amazing person that met me and just accelerated my connections across the entire state of Georgia. And then they all became aware of what I wanted to do, and then hit me with everyone that was, the rapid development of what we're doing here. But yeah, and I think we should probably bring that mindset back to Ireland. Now, I'm a bit naive, and maybe it's there, but I would love for that.
A lot of people talk about networking. They find difficulty with networking, but everyone I know who's moved abroad, it happens naturally. It's not a skill. It's just something that you do. And then, 6 months later you go, oh my God, I've been networking. So it's kind of funny. Both of you also have something in common in that kind of, you've moved, you've done a bit of work, you've got used to your surroundings, and now you're both running your own projects. Sinead, can I start with you? Because you're director and structural engineer with SimpleWorks in London. Tell us about the company and what you guys do.
So we are 7 years old. So we're structural engineers. My co-founders and I met at our old company, AKT2. One of them is Irish. You talk about Irish people looking after each other. She and I met in a pub on St. Patrick's Day. She had gone to college in Dublin with some guys from Athlone. I had gone to college in Galway with some guys from Athlone who'd all gone to secondary school together. Right. So then she and I were the only two girls in the group that day. We got to chatting. She had been working somewhere else, convinced her to come and work for our old firm. So it was me, her, and then two guys that we'd met in our old firm. So we set up SimpleWorks, and our kind of reasoning for it, our old company worked on really big stuff. So from an engineering perspective, really exciting. My last project was 2 towers down in Vauxhall, 3-story basement, complex construction sequence. But we wanted to work on stuff that had a bit more purpose. And also we wanted more autonomy over our design decisions, because when you're working on really big stuff in a really big organization, and this was naivety, right? We were probably too young to be doing what we were doing, but that's what everyone told us. So we were sat down so many times by people in our whole company being like, you're too young, just wait. We were like, no. But we wanted to be able to choose what we worked on, and we wanted that stuff to be, projects that really give back. So whether that's a teeny tiny little piece of artwork, on the side of the road, or big multi-unit residential for local councils for affordable housing. And those are the kind of the two scales that we work between now. And, we became a B Corp a few years ago. So we had to quantify how much of our work was for purpose-driven clients. And it's always kind of between 60-70% of our turnover. And it means then that we've also attracted engineers who want to work on that kind of thing. And our team is one of the things I'm most proud of at the minute. Our team's amazing. They're one of them organized this MasterChef challenge last week for our team social. And it was just so much fun. And they're all really different. They all want to make a difference. They're all, I don't know, they're just fun.
No, but it's a good crack. It's a good team, and there's a sense of shared purpose and stuff like that. Joseph, you're kind of off on a different side of things with your project because you're more research based. Am I right?
Yeah, I started a company this year. Started, I suppose, paying myself, and we do decentralized access to water. I had the intention to start a company like from a pretty early stage when I was doing my PhD. I was with Professor Vanessa Egan and Jeff Punch, and they were kind of aware of this. So the skills to write a grant application to something like the EU Commission, to get into a group that really translates. And when I moved to MIT, founder Bashir, he was a researcher taking over some projects in water harvesting, but he himself was from Lebanon. And he kind of showed me what it really meant to water, how it dictated how you lived, access to education, access to healthcare. And, there's huge inequalities associated with water scarcity, out to communities to find out what was the real problem. So we were like, look, listen, let us build a solution with you. So since then, we moved to Georgia Tech, spun out the company, raised some more in the agricultural space, but then we're focusing on the growing fear of the rapid development of AI data centers and how they overconsume natural resources. So we're trying to tap into those, but also, again, going back to Sinead's, how do they get to the community and not just like consumers,
You mentioned funding there. I would imagine there's a huge difference between looking for money in Ireland, and you can imagine what that might be like, as opposed to looking for funding in the States. How did you find it?
There is a bit of a difference. The checks kind of come faster, I would imagine. The amount of grants, in order to move fast, you kind of have individuals that are willing to front that money, and they know that it's a risk getting on those one or two unicorns to make sure those pots stay alive. Yeah, a big thing for people moving to the US is that investment landscape to rapidly get to scale and impact.
And do you find the same with innovation in that, kind of, what's the phrase? Move fast and break things? Are you able to do that a lot more in the States than you would have if you'd stayed in Ireland?
I think so. And it's more because so many people moving fast and breaking things that allows you to just be like, I'll just go for it. I think the Irish mentality is it's pretty ballsy. They are risk takers, it's like Benson get into this concert for free. I'm going to do this to get into this place for free. Why can't we apply it to engineering? And I have done, there's these closed events where it's run by the...
We'll be back to our guest in just a second. Right now, I'd like to quickly highlight some of the other leaders that we've featured on the podcast, including John Gavigan from PJ Hegarty. He spoke candidly about the immense responsibility of managing a multi-million euro city centre site and why deadlines can never come before the safety of people on the ground.
My number one responsibility as the site lead is to make sure that all of those people go home safely at the end of every day. There is a lot of potential hazardous activity goes on to build a 40, 50, 60 million euro project in the city centre. Yeah, you need to deliver the project on time, but that can never supersede the importance of doing it safely.
You can get that full conversation and explore our entire archive on our podcast app right now. For now, though, let's return to this episode of Amplified.
And I walk up, where's your name? And I was like, oh, I know the mayor. And I just say no more and just walk through. And it's like that mentality is so valuable in the startup, aggressive and be kind of cute with what you're doing. And I have abundance of that. They just need to bring it out more, and people like us can kind of come back and show that it can be done on that startup or industrial level.
Sinead, do you find any similarities with what Joseph is saying? Because for me, London is kind of it's not quite as mad as the States is, and it's closer to Ireland, but at the same time, it's still 10 times the size of Ireland. So,
yeah, what's interesting, the big difference in the construction industry between the UK and Ireland, Ireland's way more regulated. But what it does is it puts more responsibility onto the designers. So in the UK, and I didn't know this until recently, I watched a documentary about precast construction decades ago. I can't remember, was it 60s or 70s? But all the fallout from the Grenfell disaster and the kind of rapidly changing of regulations in the UK to try and catch up to maybe where they should have been, which has caused actually a slowdown in the construction industry because they can't catch up quick enough. Part of the deregulation was structural in that the Tory government, now I might say something that's not totally factually correct. I'll try and keep some facts out.
Okay, we'll take whatever you're about to say with a pinch of salt.
But I'm pretty sure it was the Tory government, because we'll blame the Tories. Yeah. They wanted, if you wanted to bring in a new regulation in the construction industry, you had to get rid of two. So over a couple of decades, they just totally deregulated the construction industry, and they put most of the responsibility onto the builders and onto the main contractors. So now, if my company does the structural engineering on a project, once it goes to site, unless the client really pushes for us to be there, the contractor doesn't have to have us on site checking stuff, right? And if it's a design and build contract, which means they take full responsibility, they're the ones who have to pay us to be there. So sometimes they're like, don't worry about it. We'll make sure it gets built right. Whereas in Ireland, the engineer has to sign everything off, which is correct. But here, the contractor can decide that they'll do that and they'll, cover the cost for all this sign off by just paying their own staff to do it. So, and then what happened with Grenfell is that things kind of made it through onto the building that never should have been on the building, but because of a lack of, you're letting people self-regulate. So when people are asked to make decisions on like safety and buildability with cost always at the forefront of their minds, people make bad decisions. And it will always be the way. So the only way really is regulation. People hate regulation. Oh my God, regulation like flies in the face of capitalism. And you're like, it's okay. I really like it. Everyone here is really upset about, there's a new thing here called Gateway 2. And it's basically, you have to have everything sorted out before you get to site. But people are upset because there's not enough resource at the regulator. So it's delayed all these projects. And actually, because the economy here is kind of, they're blaming it on Gateway 2, but it's because of Brexit and it's because of Ukraine and it's because of COVID and it's because of the politicians and everything else. But everyone's blaming Gateway 2. And I'm like, guys, Gateway 2 sounds amazing. Imagine we're going to know exactly what's going on the building. Every time there's an error, they'll say, oh, look, it was because of that.
There's an important thing to make yourself like implementable. I think like working, like it's pretty standard. Pretty like Wild Westy, like things change. You would like to use like regulation and policy to your advantage in like a sustainability point, but it's just, you just don't know what the future holds in a country like this. But the bodies, what kind of needs to be done. If it was an easier and quicker process, it'd be amazing. Like LEED certification or something like that. Like how can you tie into that as a startup to make sure that you are like the solution to be, but like in the US, I'm kind of doing this at the moment. It's like, who are I have to talk to? And you just don't know. Whereas it's a little bit more direct.
Joseph, kind of looking then kind of the opposite way around, is there stuff that you see that's happening around you that you think Ireland should be paying more attention to, things that we should be doing here?
I do. And I'm probably not going to relate this as much to water, but energy side, but energy and water are coupled. Can be lost in our old ways a little bit in Ireland. We'll take the example of, small modules and stuff like that are being like rapidly researched brands, but because there's been such a bad face in the past on things, harder to get those projects back into the country. So times I think could be an important thing to Ireland. Now, granted, we do have some amazing engineers, there's infrastructure engineers in the country. It's just, regulate that rapid progress sometimes. So just being a little bit more transformative. The US is pretty good at it, like moving fast.
Sinead, over in London, what's going on there that you think Ireland should be doing more of?
I don't think, and I don't totally know, but I have been trying to relate the two a few times recently. Affordable housing and social housing is better in London. It's really hard to get a council house in Ireland and it's really stigmatized. And here, it used to be less stigmatized. So kind of, again, this like 60s, 70s period where the welfare state probably was more prolific. I think something like 60% of people lived in social housing. And it was something to be actually quite proud of because the council housing was amazing. You could have quite a nice life in the city and it was recognized as being a way just to keep things equal. And then, there was the whole Margaret Thatcher thing where she wanted everybody to buy their homes back, everyone to be a homeowner, which in itself is a nice idea. It meant that the council sold all their stock back. So now the councils have these like huge bills where they still have to keep people in social housing, but they're paying private landlords. So now they're trying to build back their stock. And there's like loads of housing associations here, which you do have in Ireland, just not as many. And I think this idea of equity and making sure that people have enough and also making sure that the economy's changed so much here in the time that I've been here. And definitely the gap between the rich and the poor is widening. And I live in a borough that has like a crazy number of kids under the poverty line. And we're right beside the city of London, which is where the financial district is. And you're just looking at it and you can see the gap, right? Wider. And like, people will rob your phone on the street here. And to me, that's a metaphor for like, a phone is a very, very expensive thing to some people, and it's kind of throwaway to other people. And, now there's a whole like sub economy of smartphones. I don't know if you've like, if it probably isn't in like, I don't know if it makes it into the news in Ireland, but where my office is, you can't walk around with your phone out. It will be stolen, and they're being sold to China. And it's this thing of like, just huge gaps. But while I don't think Ireland has the same gap, it's starting to appear. It's there in Dublin. There's a crazy housing crisis in Dublin. And this idea that the council could be building homes, I don't think is quite so powerful as it is here.
No. Speaking of home and looking back towards Ireland for both of you, how do you maintain your network within Engineers Ireland, despite living abroad?
The beginning of last year was my interview, but I haven't been that involved, to be honest, but I am getting more involved.
Getting more involved now, all right. That's interesting. Why?
Well, with engineers in particular, Irish engineers are amazing. And it's a very probably selfish thing, but I would like to be attracting more of them to London.
How about yourself, Joseph?
I frequently have interactions with Engineers Ireland, primarily because my father was an engineer for the ESB. I've worked with institutions that work with Engineers Ireland, but the primary thing is just talking to my father and his friends that were heavily involved with Engineers Ireland and the International Engineers Society, the European one. And like, as this whole data center energy resilience boom is going on, I'm just having more and more conversations with back home, because as Sinead said, like, some of the best engineers in the world are from Ireland, because Ireland is one of the best test beds for engineering projects, and just learning from them to kind of bring that knowledge to here. So like, I've been part of talks where the US is trying to learn from abroad. So I'm trying to bring all of those learnings from Ireland to the US. And then just, the constant engagement that Engineers Ireland have with us abroad, with like, our successes and everything, like even when some things could happen on our end, Engineers Ireland have no fear reaching out. And I was involved with the institute, like, going up through the university level, participating in their competitions and stuff like that. And that was kind of like just the foundation for that frequent communication flow.
Do you ever have a fear of missing out on life back in Ireland? Or have you just made your new home and that's it?
Yeah, I love home. I like, one of the reasons I want to collaborate with back home more and more is that I can get home more and more. The first thing that everyone, I think, abroad does when they wake up is call home. And living abroad is great. There's some great perks and beauties of the greater world, but like, home is home. There's no place like it, and there's no place like the people. So there's always a miss of home, and just good vibes with people from back home.
How about yourself, Sinead? Do you find kind of being in London with so many flights and Ryanair and stuff like that, you're back a couple of times a year?
Yeah, there was. So I'm 38 now, I'm kind of off the back of all the weddings, but for a while I had like weddings a year, right? Whereas now most people have kids. I have 2 one-year-old nephews now, twins. So I actually have been going home more in the last year to see them. They're amazing. I do miss, that hurts. That kind of not seeing them like too is tough. My dad works in London. We do a bit of work together, so it's nice to see him. But I do think, Joseph, you said like the people, and we talked previously about that Irish people be worried, going abroad with their qualification. But being Irish is more valuable than your engineering degree in a way. Like, that is currency, and I don't think there's any country in the world you could go to, except maybe Israel at the moment, who isn't going that you're there. And, the Irish engineers that I work with, they work harder, are, Joseph, you said earlier, more practical. And there is an openness and a directness that sometimes of people, but once they get to know you, they value it.
Last question for the pair of you. Joseph, if you could go back a week before you left Ireland, and knowing what you know now, what one piece of practical advice would you give yourself?
I would say take the risk earlier, be ambitious earlier. engage with your Irish community, more aggressively. You are abroad, and it is nice to collaborate and get to know other people from different cultures, but like always have that grounding with your Irish roots, because you don't know how beneficial that is. And like Sinead said, it's tough living abroad, but there's sometimes I'm just walking down the street and I kind of just stop to myself and smile, being like, never did I think I'd be in Atlanta, Georgia, starting a company that could have global impact, and it isn't for me taking certain risks along the way and working with other Irish people that made that possible. So I would have just said, do it earlier. This could have happened in a year rather than 3.
Cool. And Sinead, for yourself, if you could go back a week before you left Ireland, what advice would you give yourself?
Spend more time packing your bag. I arrived in London with a hangover after my going away party and had no underwear, but a skateboard, about 5 pairs of trainers.
So you had the essentials then, essentially.
100%, yeah.
Good stuff. Listen, thank you to both of you for sharing your time and your experience with us. If you would like to learn more about Joseph's work with Whatever or Sinead's projects at SimpleWorks, please check out the links in our show notes. But for now, Joseph Mooney and Sinead Conneely, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
We hope you enjoyed our conversation today. If you know another engineer who's considering a move abroad or looking to expand their global network, please do share this episode with them. They can find us very simply by searching for Engineers Ireland wherever they get their podcasts. This episode is produced by dustpod.io for Engineers Ireland. For advanced episodes, more information on the Global Engineers series or career development advice, you'll find a wealth of resources on our website at engineersireland.ie. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, thank you for listening.